for a new episode of the Reading Room Ruffians, your favorite library podcast. This is why I don't do the intro. Surprise! It's Ariel! Mallory is missing out on this one to prepare for Jurassic January tomorrow, but she'll be back next week. Don't worry, anyone. Today we are excited to welcome author J.D. Byrne to discuss his book, More Hollow. Thank you so much for joining us, J.D. Feel free to take this time to share any socials or information about yourself, and then we can get started.
Thanks for having me. My website is jdbyrne.net, and there's a tab there that says JDB Online that's got links to my Facebook page, Goodreads, Blue Sky, and a couple other places.
All right. You can find more content from us on our Facebook group, Reading Room Ruffians Podcast, as well as from our Instagram, Reading Room Ruffians. Our library can be found on Facebook as well at facebook.com/WVJCo Library. We also have Instagram and TikTok, which can be found at WVJCo Library.
Hold up a second. We have a TikTok?
Yes, we've had a TikTok.
Now. You still have a TikTok?
We've had a TikTok.
Well, we've been posting all of our juicy shorts over there. We need to do that.
Well, I can't log into it anymore. Mallory can, though, so she can
I
give
can't
you
have it on my phone, so.
I was going to say, I don't have TikTok on my phone. And I don't know if I can re-download it or not.
That's a good point. I don't know.
But I think Mallory still has hers.
You know, I heard that, this is dating the podcast a little bit, but somebody recently just sold an iPhone, I think 16 or 14, can't remember which one, that still had TikTok installed on it for like $2,500 on eBay.
That's outrageous.
Isn't that ridiculous?
That does sound ludicrous, yeah.
That's insane.
Yeah.
Okay. Do you want me to ask the question, Zach, or do you want to pull up the drive?
If you have it handy, that'd be great. Otherwise, I'll grab it.
Off. All right. So we'll get into it. So, have you always wanted to be a writer?
Not necessarily. I'm a lawyer by trade, and so I write a lot for that. In my day job. And it was probably, 15 years ago or so, I just kind of got the urge to write something where I got to control the outcome. You know, because you if you make stuff up when you're writing a legal brief, judges get mad. So
I wonder why.
Yeah. So I started playing around with a few short stories and everything, and then had some bigger ideas and discovered National Novel Writing Month and decided to give that a go. And that kind of proved to myself that I could do it. And once I hit that, I was just off and running.
Nice.
That's cool.
That's cool.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Are there any books or authors that have influenced your writing?
Influences are always weird to talk about because I think sometimes people talk about, this is a big influence on what I do, and you can't see that in their work. So I'm always a little hesitant. A big part of the stuff that I write and sort of the way I write it is partly due to my wife, who used to sell books for a living and is a voracious reader, introduced me to George R.R. Martin. And I read the first Game of Thrones book, and I really liked it. And I was like, there's virtually no magic in here. There certainly are no pointy-headed wizards running around. And I was like, wait a minute, maybe fantasy can be something broader than I'd sort of always conceived it as being. And that gave me, the idea to start playing around with different worlds. But other people that I read a lot and that I think contribute somewhat to the stuff I do. Douglas Adams was a big.
I like him.
So far, I've liked both of them.
he was a big one when I was young, and sort of his fantasy version, which is Terry Pratchett, but also people like Margaret Atwood and Felix Gilman, who wrote a book called The Half-Made World, which is a really neat, weird, almost steampunky kind of fiction thing. And so I like things that appeal to me. are ones that sort of are fantasy or paranormal or whatever, but that kind of get twisted a little bit and sort of don't go down the main tropes, if you will.
Mm-hmm. I get that. I was going to say, I don't think I've read any of those authors.
Maybe Terry Pratchett? He mentioned
Well,
Terry
yeah,
Pratchett.
I've read Terry
Pratchett.
Douglas Adams is like the Hitchhiker's Guide
I
to the Galaxy.
I know who it is. I know Jorah.
Game of Thrones?
I've never read it.
Oh my gosh.
Never watched the show either.
Wow.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
I know, it's wild.
Hipster over
Every
here.
time she talks about she hasn't watched the show, I'm like,
No,
really?
I just have 3 children, and I'm always busy.
Oh, well. That'll do it.
The books are good, but you know, they're never going to be finished. So
That's
oh well.
true. They're never going to be finished.
Yeah. All right. So, let's see. That kind of leads into this other question. Is there any books that you've read lately that you really enjoyed or that you've read and you actually really hated?
Oh.
Either one's good. Or if you have both.
Oh, my goodness. I didn't really think about that. I mean, typically, if I really, really don't like a book, if it's just not connecting with me, I probably don't finish it.
That's what she's like.
And so
Yeah.
I tend to forget it.
I
Books-
hate read things. So
Books recently that I really, really liked. This is kind of a cheat because it was a reread. But in December, I reread Jonathan Strange and Mr. Norrell, Susanna Clark, because it's 20th
It's a good book.
anniversary. And I read it when it first came out, and I really liked what it did with the way magic works in that world, because the relationship between the two of them reminds me a lot of lawyers. Back then, before you had law schools and things like that, because that's how you learned to be a lawyer, was you studied with somebody who was already practicing. So I reread that, and that was interesting because when I read it the first time, I had not started writing myself. And when I read it this last time, sort of reading it through the eyes of a writer, I could see things that she was doing that were really slick and not necessarily things that you would tell people to do. She slips kind of points of view a lot in ways that probably if someone said, I'm going to do this, you'd be like, you probably shouldn't do that. But it's all so smooth. And it's also immersive that it just sort of blows you away.
I never thought about how it would be to read a book from like a writer's perspective, like how that would change it.
Yeah.
So out
I've
of all the authors we've interviewed, they've never mentioned that, and I've never even thought about that. So.
I've seen people online who say, once they start writing, they really can't read.
Oh no, thank
because
you.
because they're so hypercritical.
Nope.
I know it's a thing. Like if you like sort of dumb examples, if like you do handyman work around your house and then you go to somebody who's done a fixer-upper and you're like, for everything.
Well, that corner should have been a little better.
It's like, what finish did they use on this? This is terrible.
Oh my Lord.
I mean, it's not going to be something like that with all writers, because I mean, you get some really good writers out there. And it's like, I can criticize this, but it's just really, really good. So
yeah,
yeah, and it's less for me. It's less. It ruins the experience or whatever, but it's easier for me to think about why isn't this working for me, or why is this working for me, or I would never have thought to have done it that way.
So do you find yourself being does it hurt your immersion at all when you do this? Like since you read it differently now?
I don't think so, unless there's something that throws me out of it. And I'm trying to think of something that I've read recently that I was like, I just can't do the buy-in to it. Then maybe I get like hypercritical of it, but there hasn't been anything like that recently.
All right. So how long have you been writing?
Probably like 15 years or so.
15 years?
Yeah.
See, I had no idea. I was just... what is the biggest obstacle to overcome throughout your writing process? Is it the writing, the editing, the publishing?
The writing is easier than it was.
I would imagine.
The writing gets better. The editing is always a pain. Publishing, all my stuff is self-published. And so I have not really tried to go through the traditional process of finding an agent and a publisher and things like that. But that has its own own problems because of what you're responsible for doing
Yeah.
As an author. But I mean, probably the hardest part still after all this is starting.
That makes sense.
Because once you get rolling, once you're several chapters into a book, things kind of steamroll. Then you have a manuscript, and the editing is not fun, and you got to find time to do it. But you're working on something that you already have, and you can improve it. And then when you get that done, you move into the publishing part of it. It's like it all kind of picks up steam. But at the blank page stage is where it can be the most difficult still.
I think I would agree with that. Like, I used to write when I was younger, but like I always found like the hardest thing when I was making up stories and stuff like that was the very first sentence. Like, how do you start it? Like, you got to have something good.
I was going to ask, do you always start at the beginning, or do you sometimes start like farther in and then work your way both directions?
That's a good question because, I think one of the things writers struggle with is where the beginning is. And I think there are definitely short story situations I know where, I think the story starts back here. Then you start writing and you're like, no, it really starts up here. What happens before might be relevant, might come out in sort of a little bit of backstory or something, but the story starts, further on. I've never really done a situation where the first chapter is the end, and then you work back to it. I haven't had a story that
that would be a wild
would
twist.
fit that.
It's kind of like when they're like Travis's book where
he starts all over the place.
I know.
Yeah.
Where he was like, she's dead.
Yeah.
Like, okay. How'd that
was his first sentence.
Yeah.
That's a good hook. You want to know more?
So, yeah.
But he also would write chapter 3 and write chapter 7.
Yeah,
and then,
he's all over the place with his. So
It's more like he wants to do specific sets or scenes and then just like puts a story around them a lot of the time. I don't know.
I don't think I could do any of it,
It's kind of fun.
honestly.
But I mean, we've had other people that just start at the beginning and work their way through.
Yeah.
I think that would be harder.
I think so too, because my brain's all over the place.
Uh-huh.
I think I'd probably be more like Travis, but
All right, actually, so this is a question regarding your process. Are you more of an outliner? You just do more of like a free form sort of? You go through and the stuff just comes to you, or?
I'm kind of in between, but I lean towards outlining. I hesitate to say outline because I very rarely produce what people would think of as an outline. But what I try to do, for first drafts, I use a software called YWriter, and it's set up in chapters and scenes, and each chapter and scene has like a little capsule description. And so I try to come up with, okay, what are my chapters going to be? If I here's how I want to start it, here's how I want to end it, how do I get from A to B? But then in the process of writing, a lot of times there are chapters that get inserted. And so there are things that crop up that I didn't really intend to begin with. In The Bay of Sins, which is the third part of a trilogy I did called The Water Road, there's a whole B story, separate character that was not in the original plan. But about a third of the way through, I'm like, I think this might be an interesting thing to weave in here. And so I did that kind of on the fly. But I tried to do an honest kind of pantsing NaNoWriMo one year, and it did not work. I need some structure, but I'm willing to ignore the structure when it suits me.
That makes sense. Okay, let's see. That's that. Okay, so we can go ahead and get into the actual book and stuff. Your covers. I was looking at them. How do you come up with them? Do you have someone who designs them? Or?
Oh, yes. Yes. The first thing I did was a short story collection, and I was like, people do their own covers. I will do my own cover. That was the wrong thing. When it comes to visual stuff, I know what I like, but I don't have any clue how to get there. And so the people that I use for all of my covers now, because I redid the cover to More Hollow when I did the sequel last year, are called Deranged Doctor Designs. They're from the UK, and they're just fabulous. They have a 2 or 3 page questionnaire, basically, that you walk through about your book, what it's about. Are there characters you want on the cover? Are there images, particular imagery you want? And of course, that they are cognizant of, is this a series? Is this a trilogy? Is this a standalone? So they can set them up, to have a consistent branding and everything. And so I used them first for the Water Road, and people just seemed to really be drawn to those and really compliment them. So I've just kept using them.
I was going to say, I like that cover. So.
I do too. And I think, you're not supposed to, but a cover will draw you in.
Oh, I judge books by covers all the time.
Yeah.
I will absolutely.
And just FYI, the Water Road covers are pretty dope. Not going to lie.
Thank you.
I'm looking at them right now.
I judge a whole book by the cover because I don't read synopsises. I refuse to read them.
Yeah, she doesn't.
I won't.
do.
I will not. The only reason I read books is either the cover caught my attention or somebody suggested it to me.
No, okay.
But I will not read a synopsis until after I've read the book.
The cover will make me read the synopsis.
Yeah, me too.
And try and figure out a little bit what it's about.
Nope.
Wow.
I like going in blind. and that's the crazy thing about it because I read a lot of books about cannibalism.
Which
it's weird because I don't know it going in.
Have you ever picked something up? I was like, wow, that's a cool cover, and you start it and you get a third of the way through, and you're like, nope, I cannot do this.
There's been a couple, but most of the time, I'll try to finish a book because I'm like, somebody wrote this. Somebody's put their work and effort into this, and I try to get through them. There's been a couple I do not finish, and then there's a few that I've hate read. One of the most popular ones is A Court of Thorn and Roses. Absolutely despise that series. Read the entire thing so I can tell everybody about how much I hate it and why.
So. It's dedication.
It is. There's a lot of spite in me.
You work in a library, so that probably helps. But if you buy all of them, you're not sending her a lesson.
No, I didn't buy them though. See, that's the thing. I didn't buy them. Okay. But Zach picks out a lot of books, and he's like, "Oh, you'll love it." And then I read it, and I'm like, "I hate this."
You don't finish. Those have been the ones that you have not finished.
No, I finished Flatland. I finished that stupid Shape one. Is that the same one? Okay.
Shape one?
I finished Piranesi. Hated that one.
She also didn't like Piranesi, which I think you probably liked because you like Jonathan Strange and Mr. Norrell.
That one.
Yeah, I thought it was
pointless.
I thought it was a great book.
Enjoyed it.
I hated, what was that one just recently with the mannequin?
That was a good book, Night of the Mannequin.
That was stupid. That was a stupid book.
Was it like the movie, but a horror take or something?
It's about a kid who thinks a mannequin is hunting him and his friends down, so he decides to kill his friends first.
That's dark.
It
was dumb.
It's kind of goofy dark, though.
It was
his logic doesn't make any sense, but whatever, it's fun.
Stupid.
He's doing it to save their families. It makes sense in context. He's still insane, but it makes sense in context.
It was awful.
Take your word for it.
Okay, do we want to read the synopsis of this book? Or
we can, but I also want to know, before we get into the actual book, how much do you want to talk about?
That's a good point.
Because
how spoilers and stuff.
I'm the worst about giving spoilers before I realize what came out of my mouth. So I want to know where my line is.
I'm happy to talk about anything.
Okay. Okay.
He's like spoiler friendly.
Here you go.
Okay. Have me read it because I did so well with the intro.
I'm going to hoist myself on my own petard here, but my theory on spoilers is always if spoilers ruin something, really, it's not really worth reading or watching in the first place.
All right.
I mean, there is something to be said for going in cold, but if the twist is all there is.
Yeah. Okay. All right. So Ben Potter's life is in shambles. As a journalist, he's hit rock bottom, writing dreck about monsters and ghouls to make ends meet after a big story blew up in his face. As a son, he's a disappointment, unwilling to follow his father, grandfather, and great-grandfather into the family business. As a father, he's mostly just not there. Now, a new assignment could change all that. All he has to do is go from London to the hills of West Virginia to investigate the strangest of stories his great-grandfather told. Did a sleazy politician really raise the dead to try and win an election? And if he did, what happened to the zombies? Could they still exist? Ben needs to find out to solve the mystery and find a way to get his life back on track. But finding the answer only presents Ben with a whole new batch of problems. Does he use what he learns to put his life back on track, or will he be compelled to do the right thing even if it leaves his life a mess? The hardest part of a mystery is deciding what to do once you've solved it. I'm going to be honest. I love that last line. Like, I think that was really good.
Mm-hmm.
All right, so.
Because usually it just ends after that. Okay, I have a question, just in general, about the book, especially now knowing that you are a lawyer. So the whole point of at least this politician raising the dead is that those people still could technically legally vote, right? So is that a thing that happens? Like, is that an actual law anywhere? Is that like a thing?
I don't think that's
obviously
an actual,
we can't raise people from the dead.
That's an actual law anywhere.
I guess an oversight would be a better thing.
Yeah, I think oversight is probably a better
Once you have a death certificate, you're not allowed to vote.
Because the sort of genesis for this idea was there are stories from Southern West Virginia in the late 19th, early 20th century about, voting irregularities, and there are situations where people who were dead were listed as having voted. And so kind of the idea for this was, well, go one step further. Raise the dead, they can actually go vote in person. What are people going to do at that point? So that was kind of where it started. I didn't rigorously interrogate whether that would actually work.
Yeah,
right.
I mean, it's one of those things, like, I assume, at least, that there's not an explicit law written anywhere that says, once you are deceased, you can no longer vote, because that would be silly.
I think that's fair, yeah.
And there has always been a lot of irregularities, I think. Some of them not quite as dramatic as that. But my grandmother used to work the polls when she was younger. Well, when she was alive, too, since she is passed. But it's like, oh, wow. But it was not uncommon for people to be standing outside the polls offering money to vote a certain way. And she would get so mad at my grandpa for taking the money. And he's like, I'm going to vote however I want to anyway. It's like a free $5 or whatever.
Or booze.
I mean,
honestly,
businessman.
Yeah, she was like not a happy camper with that. But he was like, well, if they're dumb enough to give it to me, I'm going to vote how I want anyway.
Yeah.
It's a secret ballot. Yeah. What are you going to do?
Yeah. I could see this probably as a possibility of somebody thinking that would work.
Yeah. Okay, so why did you choose the county that you chose? Was there like a specific draw to that one? Is there like something that you know about said county?
Well,
it's okay. I'm sorry.
What wound up happening is I was writing it, and it was going to be, I think it was Mingo County.
Mm-hmm.
But there was something in a neighboring county that I wanted to include or something, and so I just wound up making one up. So it sort of occupies a liminal space down there along the
See, I was
West
wondering,
Virginia,
I was like,
Kentucky
why
border.
did you pick that one? Why not like one of the other 55 counties or whatever?
I was thinking it was Logan.
Yeah.
Because I could see Logan
Yeah,
having something like
I mean, there's like Boone County.
Well,
I can see Boone County.
I know. My ex-husband, that's where he was from. So yeah, I can see that whole. But Logan was worse than Boone.
Oh God.
So yeah.
Yeah, there's freedom in having a place that kind of reminds people of real places, but isn't actually a real place.
Yeah. So that's why I was like, because I pictured Boone County.
Did you?
Yeah, that's what I
fair.
imagined because I know Boone County. You know, I've been there.
I mean, it's West Virginia. There's not.
No, there's not a lot of difference.
No, I mean, no.
A paucity of these like nothing towns out in like nowhere counties. Like there's tons of them. Like almost all of the middle is like that.
And the southern part,
southern middle.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's true.
That coal country.
Yep.
Yeah, basically all coal country, yeah. Where it's more up in the mountains.
Yeah.
Okay, why did you choose to make the zombies the way that they were, where they just like didn't do anything really? They just
this is a unique take on zombies.
Yeah, because I've never heard anybody
use
or make zombies like that, so.
And it makes more sense.
And why do they not deteriorate?
Oh, that was weird.
going back to the beginning of that compound question, Senator.
Sorry, I thought of it as I was asking.
my thought with the zombies was always the original short story that sort of developed into this book was the politician and his henchman, his Igor, doing the sort of the magic that would raise the zombies, and the whole point was just that it didn't work the way he meant it to. It became something problematic. And so when I shifted and set the book, when I said it, I was like, I don't want them to be monsters necessarily. I don't want them to be the typical brain-eating, blast their heads off with a shotgun. I really like this idea of them being a problem that had to be dealt with, and also a secret that this little town had, and they were like, we know if the rest of the world knew about this, we'd be overrun, and these kind of godforsaken beings or whatever they are.
And that's very fitting for a small West Virginia town, the whole let's keep it a secret.
But in terms of why they don't deteriorate, I'll just say magic.
Zombie magic.
I mean, that makes sense. I was just didn't know if there was
nothing specific though.
I thought it kind of had a similarity between like the voodoo type zombies where they give them the drug and they look like they're dead and they bury them and then they go dig them up and they're just messed up. Their brain is just totally messed up, and I thought they behaved more like that than the zombies from like horror movies or books or something. I thought it had more of I don't want to say base in reality, but more of what an actual zombie could be. Yeah,
that's a good point. That wasn't intentional, but I've read some things along those lines since I wrote that, and that's a good comparison.
I mean, it's not zombies falling in love like some of these recent.
It is not that.
Oh, but it could have been.
It could have been.
Would have been better.
Could have been.
I'm joking. Those things are kind of funny, but nonsense.
I thought the way the town dealt with it too was very spot on.
Yeah. Just throw them in a.
Well, I mean, because actually at the time it would have happened, that would have been their loved ones.
Mm-hmm.
And they'd already came back from the dead, so could you really kill them? Or would you just cause them to suffer? I mean, you would have all these things going on in your heads, like, how do we deal with this?
You're a goner.
Thank you. Just end it quickly.
Do you want to be a zombie?
No, make sure I'm dead, though.
Okay, then.
And I don't just, come back later with a bullet hole in my head.
I'd be like, dang it, Mama. We got to put her down again.
I feel the love.
That'd be great.
It's important to have, these kind of talks.
I mean, if you just decapitated him, would the head be alive and the body be alive? Or
in The Walking Dead, that's what happened.
Yeah.
So.
See, you got to decide this stuff before you're actually in the situation. You know?
See, this is important talk. Important talk.
Absolutely.
I don't want to be a zombie. Take me out.
Yeah, like if I get bit, take me out immediately.
Absolutely.
I'm still alive. I don't care. Just take me out immediately. I do the same for you guys.
Good. Let me think of a cool last words, though.
Okay, that's fair.
You get 3 seconds.
You get like a minute to have the last words.
Okay, a minute. That seems good.
Yeah.
Okay.
Plenty of time.
Why did you choose to write more about the growth of the main character and less about the whole zombie aspect?
That was part of the process of transitioning it from a short story to a novel. Because I was working on the short story, and it was essentially a joke. It was dead people voting in West Virginia. How about real dead people voting? And I like the joke, but it's kind of empty and everything. And so I thought of this idea of somebody in modern times trying to figure out the truth of that. And so I started to build Ben as a character, and I would love to be able to say I had a perfect reason for making him British. I don't. I've thought back on that because I even had one of my beta readers say, you sure you want to have a British character whose last name's Potter?
Oh, yeah.
I didn't even think about that.
Yeah, it's a book. It's like, I don't have a nephew that's a wizard.
Right.
Like,
I think there's a reference to that in there somewhere that I put. But yeah, so I decided he was going to be British, and I was like, well, if he's British, he has to have a connection to West Virginia. He just can't come to West Virginia. And so, like, what's the connection? And so I thought about back in the real boom years of the coal industry in the late 19th, early 20th century. You, of course, had coal miners, but you also had railroad engineers and builders and everything, because they had to build railroads to haul the coal out to the main areas and everything. And I thought about, okay, maybe his grandfather or great-grandfather comes here and sort of comes and leaves. So he can be sort of an outside observer. And then that sort of led to, okay, well, what's the rest of the family do? And it gets the idea of, granddad was kind of a nut, and Ben sort of identifies with him, and his father, wants him to be more serious and all that kind of stuff. Then that his development and his trying to get his life together kind of came together, I suppose.
I kind of liked the growth, because at first I didn't really like him as a character. I was like, this guy is just a real pain.
Mm-hmm.
He is kind of a smartass.
Yeah. And I was like, but the more he interacted with the people in the town, the more he started to change. And I liked the way he grew in the end.
Mm-hmm.
And and he's going to have a lot of things to answer for because of it. But I think it's a good thing. I think he turned out better in the end than he started.
I like that side character that was helping him, the young guy. I can't
Gabe.
Yes, Gabe.
Oh,
I was like, I can't remember names. But that guy.
He was pretty
I
cool.
liked him a lot.
It's like, no, I can't help you, but I know a guy.
Yeah,
and that's the way it works.
It really is.
Yeah.
It's like I know people in real life like that.
Yeah.
That they're just like, oh, I know somebody. Don't worry.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes that's somebody's job.
Yeah.
Essentially, is they're the conduit through which everybody else gets connected to do their things.
I mean, I like most of the characters in the book. I thought it was
did.
very
He was
spot
just
on.
my favorite.
Yeah, I thought it was very spot on.
Man, there was something I was going to ask, and I don't have it wrote down, and I forgot it.
No.
I haven't read the second one yet. We have it out there.
I was going to say, we can talk about that and if I think of it.
But it's like, I can only guess at because I haven't read the back of it. Because once I read the back, usually if it sucks me in and I'm committed to reading and then I don't have really a lot of time, it's when I'm trying to finish one up. So, does it follows Ben more, I'm assuming?
It does. It does, but it also broadens the cast a little bit. When I wrote that, I intended it to be a standalone, and I went off and wrote a couple of trilogies. But in the process of going to book festivals and things like that, I had people who had read More Hollow, and they're like, "Are you going to write a sequel? You should write a sequel. Are you going to write a sequel?" And so I was like, "Well, no, it's a standalone. It is what it is." But then I had an idea that I thought, I was like, well, I could sort of turn this into its own series. So the new one, Triplets of Tennerton, Ben comes back to West Virginia, but this time permanently. And he's trying to make a go of it as a local paranormal investigator, web guru, podcast host kind of thing. And he gets sucked into a murder case, which actually drags in some characters from a book I wrote several years ago that's never going to leave my closet because it wasn't very good. But I like the ideas.
I was like, yeah, that'd be so cool to read that one too.
But I like the ideas in it. And so he works with this lawyer on this case. It's a cold case involving it was an arson and these 3 infant triplets who died in it. And the father, after all these years, is charged with setting the fire, and he just insists that they are alive. And so the lawyer, who has kind of a reputation for dealing with odd clients and everything, hears about Ben, brings Ben in to be sort of her investigator on the weird side of things. And so it goes into what actually happened, and are there sort of bigger things at play. So those characters will all sort of be recurring as things go forward.
That's kind of cool.
But yeah, it's still Ben's.
It gives me Harry Dresden
story.
vibes, honestly.
Now I'm going to have to go and check this out and take it home and reshuffle my reading list.
Yep, you'll have to figure it out.
That sounds interesting, yeah.
You let me know. Because I got like a good 6 months of stuff lined up.
Well, yeah, you got school, so that makes it harder.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm in college too, so.
That's hardly seems fair.
Yeah, so. All right, Zach, do you have any questions? Because I still can't remember mine. And it's
I guess
driving me crazy.
What?
I was like, I still can't remember mine and it's driving me crazy.
Okay, well, I got something. So, maybe I don't know if this is something you run into with this book just in general, but going in, when I heard about, like, I guess the premise of the book, I was definitely expecting something very different from what we got. And it is because, like, I expected it to be a little bit more horror, and it sort of, I don't know, feels like it leans into that a few times, but then when you actually get to it, it's like there's not actually any real horror there. There's weirdness, but it's more interesting and more like a curiosity type thing as opposed to actual horror.
That's fair.
So I guess my main question then is, like, is this something you've heard, or is this like an intentional choice that you made? Like, to make it feel like it's horror, but then when you actually get there, it's not actually horrible. It's just here's this little town with this little secret.
It wasn't intentional in that I was thinking, I'm going to walk right up to a line but not cross it. It was intentional in that since I decided that the zombies weren't really going to be your typical brain-munching monsters, that it had to work in a different way. But yeah, I try to sell this to people sometimes, and at like book festivals or whatever, and they'll pick it up and go, "Oh, zombies aren't for me." And I was like, "They're not that kind of zombies."
Yeah, because they're really not. Like, this is a completely different sort of story.
Yeah.
And they're kind of sad.
That knowing the zombies were in there, like, kind of threw me for a loop there for a little bit, and I was like, "What in the world is this book?" Because you get up to that point, and you're just like, "Man, somebody's got to start getting eaten like right now."
Yeah, I was expecting it. Yeah,
I was kind of hoping. I like horror though. I like people eating people. Apparently,
well, clearly, yeah.
But yeah, Mallory was worried about it because that's her big thing. Like, our zombies are like her. Like, no. Like, she can't watch movies. Like, Shaun of the Dead. Have you seen that movie?
Yeah.
Gave her nightmares. Like, she cannot handle them.
It's a little embarrassing. Why are you calling Mallory out like that?
She said it on the podcast. It's like me with aliens, all right? We can't do it. But yeah. So in the second book, do you have some of the characters from the first one in that one, or is it just Ben?
Ben and his daughter and his ex.
Do they move with him?
They don't move with him,
Okay.
but he has a couple of video chats.
Oh, okay.
With him.
That'd be hard.
it would.
I can't imagine moving across
The pond.
the pond.
Yeah, across the pond.
You know, speaking of him being British and coming to West Virginia, there was actually 2 guys on TikTok from Britain that came to West Virginia just recently.
I saw some of that. Yeah.
Yeah.
Some of them made it to Facebook.
They drank moonshine. That was funny.
Are they the ones that ate the biscuits and gravy and stuff?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yes.
Yeah. And the one put ketchup on his biscuit, and everybody was like, no.
Yeah.
Don't do that.
That is actually a thing. Every time somebody from, it's usually the UK somewhere, comes over and has biscuits and gravy, they're like, "Oh my god, this is amazing."
Yeah.
Yeah.
They always think it's like a scone or something like that beforehand.
Yeah.
Right.
I didn't realize. I knew Tudor's was like strictly like a West Virginia type deal.
Uh-huh.
But I didn't know Geno's was.
Yeah, they're the same people.
Well, see, I knew that they come together a lot in a lot of different places. Like here in Ripley, they're 2 separate. But I never thought about that.
It's the same.
It is the same.
Yeah.
And yeah, I just was never like, oh, maybe Geno's isn't everywhere too.
Yeah.
Does he try Geno's or Tudor's?
What's that? He doesn't. I should have.
Oh, man.
Actually, I'm not sure I could have done that because I am not the world's biggest Tudor's fan.
I love Tudor's.
I love some of the stuff a lot.
I always order like the strangest thing though when I go there because I order a little tater, but I get no potatoes in it. And
so it's a no-tater.
Yeah, basically, and I just have extra eggs put in it.
I think Tudor's
That's
is
just
like
weird.
You either love it or you hate it. There's like not that middle ground with
Michael
Tudor's.
doesn't like it, and Michael's not from West Virginia, so maybe it's I don't know. Maybe
Is Tudor's like Skyline?
Skyline
is that what we're saying?
Is awful. Skyline is awful.
You're just wrong there.
I hate it. I hate it. Who makes sweet chili? That's disgusting.
Greeks, apparently.
It's disgusting, and they are wrong.
It's fine. It's just like definitely there's heavy nostalgia there.
Shoo. Okay. Anyways,
Yeah,
so the last actual question that we have on our list, like we can still talk some more, but do you have any tips that you would share with aspiring writers, or something that you wish you knew going into writing and publishing?
There are a lot of people that give tips, and a lot of people who will have rules and things you should do, things you shouldn't do. And I think my two things would be, number one, rules are good to know so you know when you break them and why you're breaking them. So, if one rule you see somewhere is never start a book with a character who is waking up from a dream. Okay. You can do that, but you probably ought to know why you're doing that and why you think this is going to work where it generally doesn't. The other thing, which is kind of a rule, and it's not a rule I follow religiously to my detriment, is it really helps if you do something writing related every day. If assuming you got a job or you're in school or something like that, sitting down, even 15 minutes, even if it's sort of like world building, sort of like thinking about characters or something. It doesn't have to be sitting down with a pen and paper or a computer keyboard and typing. It doesn't have to be X number of words on a page. But if you just kind of keep chipping away at things, they build up, and you wind up with things that you can work with that become stories or books.
I think that's really good advice.
It is good advice. I would never follow it.
I mean, it's good. It's good with everything too, because I was
gonna say a lot of people say just 10 minutes of something every day.
It's like with my jewelry. If I go months without doing anything, it's like I have to relearn how to do it again, which is insane since I've been doing it for years. But it's still
that's me with my painting.
It's like you just if you stay at it, you stay in that mindset. But if you I would not recommend going a month or two, like I do sometimes, because it takes you a good week.
You also have to
figure it out again.
Make yourself sit down and take that time too once you stop for so long.
Yeah.
Because you're like, oh, I haven't done it this long. What's one more day? And then it's like 3 months later.
And other things creep into that time. Yeah.
So I think that's really good advice.
Yeah. Now, do you have any things that you are currently working on that you want to discuss?
It's super secret. I'm never going to tell anybody about it.
No zombies. No
zombies, no. No, I'm working on a book. I'm editing it. I've got a draft, and so I'm in the process of editing it. That is it's inspired by the fate of a guy. Has anybody heard of a gentleman named Franz Reichelt?
Nope. What did he
Franz
do?
Reichelt.
Franz Reichelt. He was French. And around the turn of the century, when flight was kind of starting, one of the things people were trying to figure out was basically to develop what would become parachutes. And so he created a flying suit. It was sort of a jumpsuit kind of thing that would deploy if you had to jump out of a balloon or an airplane. And he was testing them. And he kept trying to sort of just jumping off of things, and they weren't really working. And he thought, I need to jump someplace higher in order to have enough time for the thing to deploy. You can kind of see where this is going.
Oh my God.
No, I haven't heard of this.
So he talks his way onto the observation deck of the Eiffel Tower.
Oh, that's pretty high up still.
With a pair of British newsreel cameras in tow, one with him and one on the ground. And so he puts his suit on and he jumps, and it does not work.
Oh
no! And he falls to his death.
Splat.
On camera. And so I had heard about that, and I was like, oh man, that's wild. That's there's got to be a story idea there. And then there's a YouTube series that I wish I could remember the name of, but it's like little 10, 11-minute videos on disasters, air crashes and building collapses and stuff like that. And there was one on Frauensreich, and the guy very consciously did not show the footage of him falling to his death because it's out there.
That was probably nice.
It's on his Wikipedia page. And it got me thinking about how we think about people like that. And so this book it's set in a world where sort of an Art Deco-y kind of world, and magic was discovered about a generation back.
That's cool.
And the main character is an old guy. He's a retired rabble-rouser. He used to be a labor organizer and all this sort of stuff. He's very anti-magic because he thinks basically magic has come along and kind of smoothed everything out enough that nobody cares about systematic problems in society. And so there's a woman, there's a monument, it's called the Tower of the Three Queens. It's kind of an Eiffel Tower kind of thing. So there's this woman who falls off of it. And the reaction kind of generally of the city is, oh, she's crazy. She's nuts. We don't really care about her. And he really internalizes that and decides he is going to find out what drove her there. And in the process of figuring out how to tell her story, he's going to try and figure out his place in this world that he's kind of like not a part of anymore. He's estranged from his daughter and his grandkids. And so it's a little different from the stuff I've done before. It's the first thing I've done that actually has magic explicitly in it, which is kind of fun.
Yeah, but it sounds like it's a different look at magic too. So
Yeah.
that's intriguing.
Yeah. Sounds good.
It does.
We'll see.
It does sound interesting. Yeah, once that one comes out, we should have you back on because that sounds interesting. I like that idea.
Yeah.
All right.
Also, just FYI for the listeners, look up, if nothing else, just pictures of this man who jumped off. What's his name again? I have it right here.
Franz
Reichelt.
Reichelt.
Franz Reichelt.
Yeah. Fantastic mustache.
Yes.
Don't watch the video though. It's pretty. Like the impact is pretty bad.
I can't believe he had enough confidence
in his
invention.
Yeah.
I don't think I've ever had enough
working.
confidence in literally anything.
Yeah.
Not like that.
It's like, it's still not working, so I'm going to get higher because that's going to do it.
Because obviously it worked. He just didn't have the time.
Parachutes.
Yeah, and I'm not sure if it was confident so much as it was there were so many people working on similar things that he had to keep ahead of what other people were doing.
I think I would have picked some place where there's water at the bottom. I know probably still going to die, but at least, hedge your bets a little bit,
That's fair.
Like jump off a cliff. Jump off a cliff. That would be better than...
He should have been like a sugar glider as a backup. Because then maybe, because people do that.
Yeah.
The cliff jumping with the little sugar glider outfits.
Well, yeah. That's true.
Yeah, it's wild looking.
Hindsight.
If you watch some of those videos, they'll go like through little holes and things. I'm like, how in the world?
Those videos are terrifying.
The people who cliff jump.
Oh
I
my
know.
gosh.
Yeah,
it's
yeah.
like, I have this edge thing going on. That's mine.
I know.
And
Gosh,
it's like,
she can't even have other people stand near
No,
an
I
edge.
can't. I can't.
Yeah, I always send her
can't.
pictures of me with my feet off cliffs. She loves it.
Yeah.
That's mean.
It's like, yeah. Can't do it. I can't do it.
You're thinking about it now.
Yes, I was thinking about the one he sent where he was like standing like in the river, it's somewhere out there, and it was where was it? Yellowstone? Where was it at?
It's Yosemite.
Okay. He's
Yosemite
standing,
Falls at the top.
It's like
geez.
yeah,
Okay.
yeah, and you can see the waterfall like right up. And I thought, what if you had slipped? There's not even time to like save yourself. There was not enough room.
You get about 10. I
point
was like,
your
it was like 10 or 15 feet before the edge of the
That was
waterfall.
it.
But yeah, there's like a rock that gets hooved up in the middle. You can just hop over onto it.
Oh my god!
Yeah, if I would have slipped, I would have died. That's not,
They're slick.
Sounds
it
like
was a dry rock. I
Oh.
checked.
Sounds like a plan that might not have
Oh my god!
interacted well with reality. But
So then, and
I was a little
even
bit dumber
like,
back then.
"Oh, that's a beautiful picture." I'm like, "What were you thinking?"
It's a very pretty picture. Okay, I just wanted to briefly touch on your other books that you've written. It looks like you've got a couple trilogies.
Mhm.
Obviously, we haven't read these ones, but you've got a couple trilogies in here. And I guess, like, you said that the other ones didn't have explicit magic in them or anything. Maybe it's just the cover's making me feel like this. Is this like one looks a little bit kind of steampunky, and the other one looks, I don't know. It looks at least if not sword and sorcery, sword and board type, like medieval type stuff. I can't tell though, really, from just the covers. I could read the things, but I've been talking to you. So,
The Water Road is, I think of it as epic fantasy. The sort of time period equivalent for its setting is like early 19th century, so it's actually gunpowder. But yeah, there's no magic. There actually aren't humans in those books. But it's a fantastical world. There are several like cryptids that don't actually exist in our world as much as we want them to, but they exist in that world. And there are some other things like that are sort of fantastical. And then the Unari Empire trilogy is steampunkish. There's also an ancient alien angle to it.
Absolutely not.
So,
okay,
can't do that.
I'm on board with that. That sounds dope. Steampunk with ancient aliens.
Yep.
Well, that's not true. I do read alien books, but
The cryptids got me. I like the cryptids.
Yeah.
Cryptids, whatever. Been there, done that. The other one does sound really cool, though. I mean, the cryptid stuff does sound kind of neat, just like the world sounds kind of neat. But the other one, this Unari Empire trilogy, I think I'm actually going to pick that one up and read it like soonish.
Okay, cool.
Now this it sounds neat, and I was reading through a little bit of this. I guess not synopsis, whatever the Goodreads thing is called. A little description, dude. Sounds interesting as well. Plus the covers are cool. And of course, we judge books by their covers.
No, for sure.
One other thing I just wanted to briefly mention, I noticed that we have a friend in common, and that is Timothy Huguenin.
Oh, yeah. Mm-hmm.
Hey, yeah, we had him on.
We just had him on, what was it, a couple of months ago?
Yeah, I saw that.
Yep. He's fun.
Yeah, I met him at, I think it was the West Virginia Book Festival years ago. And not only do we wind up at those things, but we seem to wind up at those things like at next door tables or across the aisle or something like that. I guess because we sort of both write, sort of weird paranormally things, and people think it makes sense to cluster them together. Yeah.
I mean, you
It
can
draws
do
that
all your
crowd
shopping
that-
in one section.
That's right.
I think
That's where I go.
I think that's true on the one hand, but I also think what happens sometimes is people who are interested in a particular thing like that, they find the first one and they buy all their stuff and they run out of money.
Well, yeah.
Yeah, that is an issue with because I mean, books are not that cheap,
No, yeah.
especially physical copies.
Yeah.
So you go there, you're like, oh man, this is cool, and you want to buy all their stuff, and then you go to the next person, you're like, oh,
You need
beans,
to
I spent all my money.
get a sign that says paranormal. Start here.
Okay.
Yeah.
There you go.
See, I'm a browser, though. I'll go and look at everything.
I do too.
And
I do
then
too.
decide what it is I want.
Yeah, there's some people that do that. There are some people who come and browse and lie and say they'll come back, and they never do.
Well, they probably found something else.
Or they just didn't have money and they would like to have it and they just couldn't.
Yeah.
That
Yeah.
could be. I always think of it as, they come, they look, we talk a little bit, and they're like, oh, well, maybe I'll come back. And they walk away, and I'm like, you're not going to.
Yeah.
Yeah, sometimes you can really tell.
Yeah.
I'm also a horrible salesperson. I don't like to be sold, and
Yeah.
so in my head, I don't want to sell to
Yeah,
people.
I get that.
Yeah, I know, I get that.
I'm not a salesperson either, man.
Me either.
But Rowan, my daughter,
Oh my God.
she'll sell you anything.
It's like, calm it down, child.
Yeah.
Yes.
She's like, look at this. This is done by this person, and they made it because of this. And she will talk to you for 15 minutes about something to try to sell it to you.
She should try selling people the podcast a little bit more.
Yeah.
Well, she was older.
My philosophy is if they want it, they're going to buy it.
Yeah, I'm just like,
Here's
Yeah.
my stuff. If you like it,
I'm just not a people person either. So I'm like,
Yeah,
that's exhausting.
I know, it is. It can be.
Yeah, my face used to hurt after craft shows because I was smiling, and I guess I didn't smile enough in
Yeah.
normal life,
Nope.
and it's like, oh my God, I just want to die now.
You need to train for
Yeah,
it.
I did. It's like that,
Yeah.
that and a pack of or a bottle of Advil.
yeah.
True.
All right. Well, we are coming up on an hour. So do we have
Wow.
any
Yeah. I
other
guess
questions or thoughts?
I have one more, just real quick. So, you've definitely written in like the fantasy genre, a little bit in this like sort of paranormal genre, it looks like, and then are there any other genres you're thinking about branching out into? Because it seems like you've been doing different stuff every time you've been like going around and writing new books. Like this new one you were talking about is a different sort of vibe, like I guess historical fantasy type deal almost.
Yeah, kind of, sort of. I in my head I group everything I've done under the umbrella of fantasy. I have some short stories that are honest to goodness science fiction, but I don't have the technical wherewithal, I think, to write science fiction. Fantasy, it's very easy just to build a world and it's like, that's the way it is, The Water Road is called the Water Road because there is a river that runs the width of this continent that is navigable its entire length, which just doesn't happen. Well, guess what? A god did that. That's the backstory of this world.
Taking care of this bunch. We're going
to the only difference is you could have said like, the ancients did that and it's an alien civilization.
Yeah, well, that's a little bit what some of the Unari stuff is. But yeah, I do try and find different vibes, like you said, different niches within fantasy and paranormal. Because the Triples of Tannerton's kind of a mystery, a little bit's kind of a murder mystery. It has courtroom stuff. I couldn't resist courtroom stuff altogether, given my day job.
It was going to sneak in there somewhere, yeah.
Right, yeah, exactly. Yeah, at one point I thought I'm going to have a lawyer in every book, just because we're everywhere. We're like locusts.
That makes me think of. I got a question.
But I haven't managed to do that.
Okay, so you said that you've read some Terry Pratchett. Did you read The We Free Men?
I have not read that one yet. No.
There is a toad lawyer.
Oh, yeah?
Yes.
He's amazing.
He is amazing.
Okay,
I definitely suggest
I'll have to track that
He
one
didn't
down.
start out as a toad.
No. He was a lawyer that got
turned into a toad?
Because he made, I guess, it was a witch mad, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's never a good idea.
No.
No.
So, but now he's the We Free Men's
lawyer. Yeah.
Nice. Okay. Yeah, I'll definitely have to look that one up.
It's very good.
I will say that doesn't happen in the first book, does it? That's like second or
I think
third
it's like
book?
the second one, maybe, or the third.
The second and third, yeah.
I think you meet him in the second one, and he really falls into the lawyer role into the third one.
Yeah.
Okay.
I think he signs up for as the lawyer.
Yeah.
In the second one.
Yeah.
But yeah.
They're good.
He's so
man.
cool.
Yeah.
He's so cool.
There's so much of the Discworld stuff I have left to explore.
Oh yeah, see, I haven't read all of them, but those are some of my favorites. So.
Yep.
Well, I really liked the book, and I would recommend it to people. At first, when I didn't really like the character, I'm like, "Where's this going to go? Where's this going to go?" And the more I read, the better it got, and I loved the different twist on zombies because it made them look more human. Maybe it's like that these were once people.
Yeah.
Instead of just being a monster.
Yeah.
So I kind of like that. It was a nice twist.
And you're not.
And
you're not a horror reader either.
I'm not. That's the reason I probably liked it
probably
as much as I did. And I'm looking forward to reading the second one now. So
yeah.
Yeah.
But it looks like the crone is going to have to wait a minute.
I really enjoyed the book as well, and I thought I knew what was going to happen in it basically the whole time, and I was wrong every single time.
Me too.
So,
Me too.
Oh, good.
And it was pleasant surprises.
You never know how those
there's good surprises.
You never know how those things are going to land because, in the writing, certainly by the time I'm editing and everything, I know what the setups are and how I'm trying to lead them there. But, you never know how a reader is going to interact. There's an incident that happens at the beginning of The Water Road that kind of sets up the whole thing. And there's a review somewhere where someone's like, I just couldn't buy that. Like, okay. I mean, that's fair. People have different reactions to things, but,
I think in this book, it was that I had too many preconceived notions of what was going to happen. Like, I was definitely expecting, some sort of zombie nonsense to happen. Like, they start eating people or go crazy or something that sets them off.
So much.
I also thought that
he was going to get
can't remember what the character's name is, but the sheriff and the coal bearing guy. I can't remember what his name is.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway, those two were going to end up like trying to kill Ben, but it never happened either. They just kind of took him as like, now don't you go talking to anybody.
Yeah.
We're going to trust you.
Sheriff Rhodes, wasn't it?
Rhodes, yeah.
Yeah, and then McGee
yeah,
was
Sheriff
the other
Rhodes,
guy.
and then yeah, so it's like I was expecting something like that to happen. No, they were chill dudes for the most part.
Mhm.
I mean, I understood where they were coming from. It's just I was expecting like, evil rich man.
Yeah.
Because
and it's like, and he actually had a tie to one of the zombies.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Which was
interesting.
It's like,
So that's the thing. I was expecting something
yeah.
different because I think of preconceived notions, but it made all this stuff made sense in the context of the book, and I wasn't disappointed by it or anything. I was just like surprised.
Oh, wow.
I was like, I guess I was wrong. Maybe he's not an awful person.
Yeah. But you think that at first. You think, oh, no.
Oh, no, you 100%
yeah,
think that at first because you're seeing it sort of through Ben's point of view.
And there were people that were really that ruthless in history.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
In West Virginia, and especially connected to the coal mines.
I'm really worried about the hate on Ben because Ben is the closest to me of any character I've ever written.
It was the fact that he was there to use people.
Oh, okay.
And
I don't do that.
No, and it's like, and he grew. It's like, there's that's what it was. It was like
became more self-aware of stuff.
Yes,
I
he
think
did,
was the main thing,
and he was more empathetic.
Yeah,
and it's like, oh, there's more going on here than
or maybe it revealed his empathy more. I don't know.
I think it did. I think he just went through
like
such a trauma.
It did very different from the beginning towards the end.
Yeah. So, I liked him in the end.
Yeah, because I think at the beginning he would not have done what he did at the end. I don't think so. I don't think he would have just let things lie.
Yeah.
Without having, I
think really
spoke
getting
with all
to
these
know
people and gotten a little bit more of the backstory and, had this deep introspection.
And I think the fact that they trusted him, I'm just putting words in your mouth here, but I think the fact that they trusted him made him more aware of what he was doing. Yeah.
That was
I think so.
The big push, I think, for him was the fact that they trusted him because they didn't need to, right?
No.
They probably shouldn't have, honestly. But, they did. And I don't know, felt like it melted his heart a little bit.
Yeah.
Less crunchy.
But I would recommend it. And we definitely have it here to check out. So if somebody wants to check it out. And
Judy.
She will. Yeah,
she was waiting on it. I was going to say Judy.
Yeah.
I like that somebody's waiting on it.
And I've had it a little bit longer than I probably should have, but I was like, I wanted to have it for this.
Yeah, I know.
I was like, you just got to wait.
Yeah,
Did you hold it up?
It out.
I did hold it up because I wanted to have it for the podcast. So
I had the physical copy, and then I ended up reading it on my Kindle instead.
Okay.
Yeah, I did a Kindle.
I was like, oh, yeah, you can have this, by the way.
Which is a good thing because we didn't have too many. I mean, I had two.
Yeah, I know.
So I got one for us and one for Ravenswood.
Yeah.
So,
but yeah, I ended up getting it on my Kindle. So, which honestly is like it's the first actual real book that I've read on my Kindle.
Really?
I read graphic novels on my Kindle a lot, but I don't like reading on screens very much. But I was able to read this one, so
that's good.
Okay.
Yeah. I don't know why, but
it worked.
I find it a lot easier to read on Kindle personally. I don't know.
I'm old school. I have to hold the book or listen to it. That's my only choices.
Well, I hardly ever get to actually sit down and read a physical book. I always have to listen, but
I have to print stuff off if I have to read it at work because I read better from a paper than I do that screen. I don't know.
You're so old.
I know. I
know. Mm-hmm.
All right. Well, are we going to wrap this up then?
I guess. Any last words?
We
are good.
All right.
Too much pressure.
All right. So
thank you guys for having me.
Oh, thanks for coming.
Thank you for coming. Sorry we had to reschedule so many times.
That's absolutely not your all's fault.
Weather.
Yeah. Yeah. It's actually in our outro.
They control the snow.
Actually,
it's a thing.
All right. So coming up next is my nonfiction pick, which is Melania. And then we will sit down with special guest Adam Good to discuss some really fun stuff. Then we will have Mallory's nonfiction, Love and Whiskey by Fawn Weaver. And then we will have our first actual book chat of the year, which is insane that it's going to be
February
before that happens, but snow has like messed up our schedule completely.
Maybe we'll have House of Leaves done by then. You never know.
No, probably not. All
It's
right.
a big book.
It is. We hope you enjoyed today's episode. It is time for us to sign off, but before we go, only the best libraries have librarians who don't shush you.